What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the StudentFyre podcast, live from the StudentFyre studio. I'm your host, Bobby Berg, and this is long overdue. This is so long overdue, but we're here. We're making it work. And a lot of you have been asking for me to get more guests back on the podcast. So here we sit with one of my favorite people in this entire world. Nick, why don't you go and introduce yourself, man? I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited to be here. See, Bobby's energy, man. I don't know. Where are you located at right now, Bobby? Real quick.
Currently I'm in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is near Fayetteville, about an hour and a half south of Raleigh.
Okay. Well, all the way from North Carolina, I'm telling you guys, like listening right now, I could feel this man's energy. Like as soon as I entered into the Zoom meeting, I'm like, oh, there's Bobby, and then boom, that energy is contagious, dude. I felt energized as soon as I logged onto the meeting, But, for those guys who don't know me out there, me and Bobby, we connected at the Eric Thomas conference. It was the Verified conference back in Philly in 2019. We were just talking about this right before I hopped on. And like, dude, like it's like 2019 just keeps on going away. That I reach for it, and it just keeps on going away. And it's like, man, like it's 2022, like we're 3 years away from 2019. And oh man, dude, I just can't believe like how quickly time passes by. But anyways, like I work as an engineer. I am an investor. Let's see, I'm a guy who's in my 20s. I'm living in Southern California right now. I like to keep things lighthearted. I like to be like a little bit of a goofball. What else about me, Bobby? I lost a whole bunch of weight. I was really chubby before, and then now I got a phase that's like less chubby, and I'm trying to build some muscle right now,
It's working.
It's the first time in my life I've ever been this physique, so it's all brand new to me. And I'm trying to post a little bit more on social media than I have before, because I've been lagging it. So I've been just trying to boozle. I think I just made up a word on the spot.
I like it.
Boozle all this stuff together. And I'm also a weird guy who's like into tech too. That's part of like the engineer side of me. Like Pikachu's all blurred out in the background, but I got the Pikachu going on right here. And then the Apple AirPods, I gotta get them in the Pokeballs, but then I'm also into weird little collectibles. I mean, I got like the PSP right here, original. Nice. Like man, that's just, I'm a weird type of guy that's all over the spectrum a little bit. But yeah, man, I'm so excited to be here with Bobby, reconnecting, and just, I mean, time and distance, man. But every time we sync back up, it's like, dang, it's like I feel energized, like.
I love that. I love it. So this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about your journey with as much as you're comfortable being vulnerable with. And
absolutely.
When Nick and I were talking about this before we, decided to hit record, he was like, dude, I got this great idea. I'm like, all right, send it. What are we doing? He's like, I really like the idea of getting to know yourself. And at first I was reading, I'm like, yeah, cool. Swipe, Instagram, like text back, cool. Let's keep swiping. And later that evening, I was kind of sitting in bed just thinking, and I'm like, that was a really deep sentence. Like just getting to know yourself a little bit. And so today we're going to dive deep into that one. As everyone knows, this is not an episode where you just turn it on and just go nuts. Like you can, but I want you to take some time, and I want you to really listen to what we're saying and really internalize it, because there's a lot of power in getting to know who you are. And what I find with the students that I coach is that's always, every single time, the root of every problem we have. Every time. Doesn't matter if it's their grades, doesn't matter if it's financial issues, doesn't matter if it's home issues, if it's social issues with their friends. It always comes down to they're not sure of who they are and what they stand for and what they believe in and what they don't believe in and how they approach life. And man, I just want to say thanks for bringing this up, because you have sent my speaking career on a trajectory that I didn't plan on happening anytime soon. But man, we have got some stuff loaded in the chamber just because of that one sentence that you gave me.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited for you to rip it all off.
Dude,
I can't wait.
I can't wait. It's going to be great. So
unleash it.
When did you really start learning who you are? Like, what was the moment where you could go back and be like, no, this was it?
I would say I didn't figure out who I was until after I finished college. And that, to me, is a later part in life than I had wanted to figure out myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then when I compare myself, when I look at like motivational speakers saying, you need to know who you are, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Apparently there's people in their 50s and 60s who don't even know who they are, you know? Yeah. And I think it's a question that we continually, maybe some people just push it off and they just try to blend into some sort of persona. But, you know, but for me, I grew up with 4 sisters. I was the only guy. I lived with just a single parent mom. I didn't have a real male role model growing up. So I felt like every time like I would see a male figure that was doing positive, I'm like, okay, I need to be like that dude over there. And he might not even be like that cool, you know, but I'm just like, I maybe over there, maybe that's the right path, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for a long time, it was abstract people, dude, like that. You would not even think to look up these type of people. I'm like, okay, Shia LaBeouf is a pretty cool dude. Maybe I should be like that. Or maybe like this person's a pretty cool person. So I should try to be like that. So, I was so interested, I think for a while, if I'm being honest, with just trying to follow along with people who were doing great, successful in their lives. And I just wanted to kind of mimic that in my own because I had a whole bunch of little gaps that I felt like I could improve on as a whole person. But when I graduated college, I had a lot of time to spend alone because I graduated college. I would go to work and I come back. LA traffic. I don't know if there's anybody listening who knows about how hard that is, but man, you just spend a lot of time alone in the car. You know, there's smog going on. There's people honking in the distance. Nobody wants to be there, but you spend a lot of time alone by yourself there. And it's just like, man, like I got out of work and it's the evening time already. The sun's already down. And by the time I go to make my sandwich and, or steak, for dinner, I'm just like, you have a lot of time to try to figure out like what it is you want to do in life, what it is you like about life. And for the series of days after I, realized I had a whole bunch of time to myself in my commute home, I was just like, man, like maybe I have been stapling myself onto people who were doing successful that I don't actually entirely agree with their point of view, And I realized that, Nick, like you're not just defined as this one person. You're multivariable, you took multivariable calculus. Like, the things that are really complicated and you're a really complicated person. We're all complex people, but we're all really multivariable. And so you have different interests. You're a geek, you're a speaker. You could be a leader at times. You're charismatic to some extent. You're a goofball. You're all these different types of things, and you shouldn't try to place yourself in one category of a successful person or how they were and say that you're this, because you're not that. You're Nick, Yeah. And you're a person who's open and makes mistakes. But one of the things I think, this is me talking to myself. One of the things that I think was a strength about me was that when it comes to like the whole girls, and talking to girls and women, I knew right off the bat, I was just like, okay, I don't have I know that some guys are good, with it. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest with it. They got like the looks, they got the smile, they got the Colgate white smile, they got the, they got like the 6-packs with the levels. And I was like, okay, I don't have any of those things. But what I do have, what I've always been really good at doing is making somebody laugh and making somebody feel like that they can be themselves around me, So I would associate that with personality. So I was like, okay, personality, Nick, is what you have to tap into 100%. Like, just throw it all in there. Personality. Somebody says, well, what about this other part of yourself? Like, what about these little chubby rolls you got going on here? Don't even worry about that. We're just going to focus on personality right now, Mm-hmm. And so what I found out is that, like, man, like by capitalizing this one area that I felt the most strongest in, oh, Bobby, I felt way better as
Yeah.
a person, you know? I felt so much more clean, just more like, in the head, just
Yeah.
more like less congested with thoughts about um being confused about like your whole identity. And it's just like,
Hmm.
man, like once you get to that level of like, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. I don't have to be completely 100% professional all the time, because I'm not professional all the time.
Hmm.
And I don't have to try to you know fit into some sort of category that everybody else, maybe who's a friend, might want me to fit in. I just you you realize that you're you at the end of the day. And I just, when I sent you that on Instagram, I really wanted to see more people in my life tap into who they are at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Hmm.
And so I think that's where I wanted to kind of take this conversation, is like, I see so many people who they have like these hidden talents and abilities, and
Yeah.
they just want to um I don't see them capitalizing on it as much as I would want them to,
Hmm.
if I'm being honest. I think that I'm just like, man, if you would bring out that drawing part of you, if you would just bring out that little anime part of you, if you would bring out this whole side of you that wants to start this little small business, like, man, like you would go to so many different levels, but
Yeah.
it's just trying to fit into one small category. So, I mean, what do you think about that, Bobby? I mean, do you encounter that like on your own?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
I very much fell into my confidence probably within the last 2 years. Like truly accepted who I was as a person just 2 years ago at the age of 28.
Mm,
Um, and that's not to say that things didn't grow over time. College was a very, very important part of my life because I stopped caring. I was like, no, I am obsessed with Batman. I'm not going to try and lie about this. I love comics. I love everything comic book related. I
mm,
enjoy reading them. And that became a very integral part of my personality. And I wasn't afraid. But I'm like, no, it's Sunday at 10:30. Bye. I'm gonna be over there at what's it called? At Panera with my 2 or 3 graphic novels. And I'm gonna get my cup of tea and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna read for like 3 hours. And that's what I'm gonna do. And my buddies would always laugh. They're like, dude, don't tell me you do this every Sunday. I'm like, no, I do that every Sunday. Every Sunday. And something that really, really helped me understand who I was is, again, longtime listeners of the podcast have heard the story, so just buckle up.
mm,
For our new listeners, also buckle up. um, Growing up, my mom struggled with drug addiction, um, and my dad wasn't in my life.
mm,
So I always felt this constant looming feeling of like needing to connect with male figures, which is why I connected so hard with the Batman character, because I'm like, oh my God, this guy doesn't have any powers. He's just really rich, which in itself can have some benefits. But I was like, no, this guy, this. I want to be like that. I want to look at every single option and just make it work. And I fell in love with it. And growing up, I always latched on to the male figures in my life. My grandfather, both of my uncles, my coaches, especially my wrestling coach. Oh,
mm,
and my mixed martial arts coach, Brian. I fell in love with them
mm,
because I'm like, yo, you are really showing me what it's like to be a successful male in this world. Um, my grandmother took me to a conference where Joe Ehrman, if you've never read this book, it's called Season of Life by Joe Ehrman. That's Ehrman. He's a former he's a former NFL player. It was before the Broncos were in the city they're in now. It was whatever city they were in prior. It doesn't really matter. I'm not a sports buff. But he's a huge dude. He's like 6'4", was walking around at like 240, just a
wow.
hulking mass of a human. And he said, during practice, like they would yell at us, they'd be in your face, they'd be shouting at you. And he goes, one day I just clicked. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like the way I'm being spoken to. I don't like the way you guys are treating me. And when he retired, he started coaching at his local high school. And it's football. everyone, we've all seen Remember the Titans. We've all seen, football players where the coaches get really mad. They're always up and intense and in your face.
Gridiron gang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy was the exact opposite. He doesn't yell, doesn't raise his voice, doesn't shout, doesn't even say anything negative to his team. Every word out of that man's mouth is positive. Everything. And he has this thing where he's like, I want to build a generation of men to be built for others. And I saw this conference when I had to be 12. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And, my grandmother was there and my music teacher, David Kay, was there with me. And Joe's giving this really impassionate speech and they're both crying. And I'm like, man, come on now. And, they open the floor for questions and they're like, hey, my grandma says, or asked Joe, she goes, how do you get your kids to understand that it's okay to cry? Because growing up, I wasn't a kid that cried. It didn't happen much. Like, it would happen eventually, but it wasn't often. And I couldn't tell you, even if I wanted to, what Joe said, because I was like, this is getting a little weepy for me. I'm out. And man, wouldn't you know it, you ever get that where your parents tell you something where they're like, man, when you get older, you're gonna understand what they meant. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, great. It had to be, this was about 2 years ago. So for those of you that don't know, Jenny and I got divorced 2 years ago. It wasn't because of anything negative. We just were growing apart and thought that it was in the betterment for both of us to go forward with this. And having to replan your life after having spent so much time planning it for two people, having to actually go back to the drawing board and be like, yo, how do I do this? How do I move on with my life now? Is a very daunting task. And one of my buddies he was dealing with some suicidal ideations, which for those of you that don't know, in the military is a very, very common thing. And I remember he was over, he was just acting really funny. And I was like, bro, are you okay? He got real quiet and I was like, homie, hey, I need a verbal answer from you. Are you okay? And he goes, no, I'm not. I was like, what's going on? He goes, you notice you and I have been in this room for 3 hours and haven't said a single word to each other. And I was like, I know. You've been looking at your phone. You've been doing your thing. I don't mind parallel play like that where two people are in a room and you don't say a single word to each other. Doesn't bother me. And he's like, so my therapist said I should probably go to a meditation retreat, or I should start meditating to kind of help when I start feeling these dark thoughts. And I said, all right. And he goes, I want to go on this meditation retreat and I don't want to go by myself. Will you go with me? I said, yeah, sure. And let me show everyone real quick because this is kind of neat, I think. Background's unblurred. So if you look up right there, boom. That, I know the camera's not focusing because it's a webcam. But that is, if anyone's seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's an episode where Aang has to balance all of his chakras. And it's a really phenomenal episode. It really is. And in it, you see the inner turmoil that he goes through. And my buddy was like, listen, my friend found a friend who does these chakra meditations. Do you want to go with me? I was like, yeah, of course I'll go. And I thought it was going to be like a 1 hour thing a day, something small. Bro, this was 3 hours a day for 2 weeks. And on Sunday, it was 6 hours of just meditating. You just sat there.
What the heck?
Straight. If you needed to, go to the bathroom and do your thing. But, and I was like, man, I don't want, this is a long, why did I say yes to this? Like that's a lot of time. And as we were going through it, what I realized is there was so much inner turmoil that I was going through that I just refused to address. I didn't realize that the reason I didn't cry often was a trauma response. Because, growing up, there were times where, this is not a secret. I've experienced a lot of death in my life. A lot of family members have passed away. And not often. So when my grandmother was battling cancer, there was an incident where her colon ripped, and she was old. I think she was in her late 70s at that point. And the doctor said, hey, so like the whole family gets in the room and the doctor goes, all right, we can either do the surgery and try and repair the colon. There's a 30% chance of success. Or if we don't, she's got roughly 3 days to live. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, all right, this is intense, but this is reality. And the whole room, my whole family looks at me and goes, Bobby, what are we going to do? Not in a rhetorical sense, like literally here are your two options. Pick. How do you think most people would react in that situation, man?
I don't even, it's incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Man. Like this is,
it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But when you have to pick, well, again,
what do you choose?
Part of the trauma response where I was like, I think, and I asked my grandma, I was like, what do you want to do? It's literally your life. And she goes, what do you want to do? And I was like, 30%, I'm not a betting man, but 30% doesn't sound very good. So I called every single one of my friends that had any relation to her, which was a lot. She was the mom of the group where everyone, our house was always the place you would come to and just she took care of you. And I told everyone, I'm like, listen, you have 72 hours, get over here and say your goodbyes because it's coming. And man, every single one of them made it to say goodbye to her. We're talking probably 30 plus people.
Unbelievable.
And granted, a medical marvel actually happened. The doctor comes in on day 2 and goes, Inga, I don't know what you're doing. I've literally been practicing medicine for over 55 years and I've never seen this happen. It's healing itself.
What the heck?
Yeah. Like the whole family came back. We're like, wait, what? And my grandma goes, Bobby, what did I tell you all those years? Like when I told you that I had cancer. I was like, I've got ADHD really badly, so memory recall is not my strong suit. What did you say? And she goes, I told you I'm going to see you graduate college. If this is how someone's going to take me out, they're going to have to try a hell of a lot harder because I'm not going yet until I see that. And it's an incredible story. But as I was going through this meditation, I didn't realize how that memory just kept coming back and back and back and back. And the guy that's guiding us through this meditation goes, because he's watching me and he can tell that my body's twitching a little bit because I was laying on the floor, and he's like, whatever you're fighting, let it go. Stop fighting it and let it go. And just as he finished his sentence, I started bawling. And it hit me. I was like, wow, you don't have to be strong right now. You don't have to be in control. Let go of let it all out. And man, I did. I cried for probably 30 minutes until like my tear ducts just stopped. And it really opened my eyes. I was like, man, this feels good. This feels good because now I feel like I'm in control. And not in control of like, oh, I'm controlling my emotions. If I feel sad and I want to cry a little bit, let's let it out. If I'm feeling emotional, as people would call it, yeah, let it out. I don't need to be at work and be this, this strong barrel-chested freedom fighter that's like, no, man, I'm in control of it. No, just be you. I know that I'm eccentric. I know that I have a lot of energy. Why in the world would why all of these years did I push that down? To fit in, to not be the loud one in the group, to not be the one that's got these ideas that are way off where they're like, when my buddies go, dude, you're starting a business? You want to be a speaker? Really? What? You want to coach kids? I'm like, yeah, of course. And they're like, dude, you could be charging X amount of dollars per kid per month. We could scale the business. And I'm like, homie, the kids that I'm working with in Arizona, their families make a grand total of $29,000 a year collectively. Tell me where that money for coaching is going to come from. Tell me why I would start charging these kids for coaching when I could just volunteer my services to help them get their high school diploma and be the first one in their family to do that. Tell me what's more gratifying than that, please. And all of that to say, I really fell into myself when I stopped trying to define who I was. I stopped trying to say, oh, well, you know, if Elliot Hulse is this really, you know, alpha male human being, and then Eric Thomas is this really passionate, you know, I mean, you've heard him speak, like, oh, yeah. you can feel it from the back of the room. And I'm like, but that's not the type of speaker I am. That's not the type of person I am. Do I have that ability? Absolutely. Nowhere near on the level, but right? Because I finally realized you have to be comfortable with what your skill set is. You have to be comfortable with what you are, with who you are, with your inherent gifts before you can try and emulate somebody else. Sure, take bits and pieces from other people, but be you, man. You are so uniquely complex. Why in the world would you try and fight that? But also, I'm sure you're well aware of this. So many people are taught to emulate your heroes. And I'm like, I've done that. And I don't like it. Not to say that my heroes aren't great, but I love me, man.
That's true. Yeah.
Like
100%.
You know, and what was it that made you really understand who, like, when did you actually sit down and understand who you were? Like, talk me through what happened in that moment.
Well, I guess for me, it all started for me when I started losing weight. Like, that's when I started to, because losing weight for me was one of the hardest things. I had always been the chubby guy growing up, you know. Well, not always. I think there was like a period of time when I did sports for a little bit, but at a point, you know, I think I can remember my mom, she had to buy me husky shorts, you know, and she would always like tease me like, yo, you gotta wear huskies. And I'm like, I guess. I mean, what are you feeding me? Like, you're the mom. So like, but honestly, dude, like I would, and I'm being real, like I would go home and for dinner, I would have 4 hot dogs, douse it all with ketchup, put a few big scoops of Kraft macaroni and cheese, glaze it with more ketchup, have soda on the side, almost up to a liter of soda, right? And then that's what I was eating. I'm almost every day after school, I would go home, eat a bologna sandwich, you know, chocolate milk, pretty much everything gnarly that you could probably get your hands on. Dude, I had no ceiling on what I could eat. Like sometimes I was just eating just because I was bored, you know, kind of like the Grinch. I was like, yo, like, I got nothing else to do. Let me go and like snack on these for a little bit while I watch like TV, you know. I was watching like, so this is like 2012, 2013. I was watching probably like Jersey Shore at that time. Oh yeah. You know, just picking it all up, which didn't make sense because they all had muscles and I was getting chubbier. But yeah, man, I mean, and then college it got worse because I started off at a trim level, but then I realized that like I didn't have much money, you know, so I was going through college and I would only have enough money to have like one good meal at the whole day. So I would save it all up for like 2 bean and cheese burritos and some fries and a soft drink from Alberto's for like under $10. And so like, that's what I would try to, and then people would tell me like, dude, you're not even eating healthy. And I'm like, well, I can't eat healthy with my budget. You know, it's just, it is what it is. And like my roommates tease me because one day I would come home and like for breakfast, you know, they would be making like these, like they were Hispanic, you know, so they'd be making like tortillas with like eggs and they would put like this chili on it and stuff like that, make it look real good, you know? And then here I was like, excuse me, like going into the kitchen, getting into the cupboard and getting like a Pop-Tart. And they're like, no, he didn't. They're like, who's that Pop-Tart for? And I'm like, for me, fool. Like, what you mean? They're like, no, you eat Pop-Tarts. And I was like, yeah, why would I not eat Pop-Tarts? And they're like, bro, I stopped eating Pop-Tarts when I was 7 years old. And I was like, well, I'm going on, way more than that. And I'm
Yeah.
still going strong with the Pop-Tarts,
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I didn't realize like how different I was with my eating habits in that respect, from the people who I was roommates with at the time. But I mean, I would just collectively just eat more and more. And when it comes to like fruits and vegetables, nothing, dude. I didn't even know
Really?
you were supposed to start eating fruits and vegetables until um when was it? I think I first got heard of it when Michelle Obama tried to, I think was she when
What?
she was, I'm being honest, Bobby.
I
I'm being
know.
honest.
I love it.
It's very strange. I'm like, yo, you're supposed to be eating this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Because that was disgusting, I mean, and growing up, like what did my mom have in the pantries? It was always like Gushers, fruit roll up, Twinkies, the freezer. She knew I couldn't cook, so she got me like corn dogs and
Yeah.
things like that. Very rarely do I ever like close my eyes and remember like, okay, was there an apple in that little basket right there? Was there like a pear?
Yeah.
There were oranges, was there that kind of stuff? I don't remember it. Even if it was there, I was not instructed to eat that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was just encouraged to eat like how I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And so I carried that mindset with me into college. And then in college, I got an awakening of like, okay, you're living on your own, literally. Do you have to keep on making these same choices you were when you were a little kid?
Yeah.
Your mom's not here to enforce it. Your sisters aren't here to enforce it. Like you're your own little young man now. Do you have to continue eating like this? And so some people would check me like, yo, you're getting kind of chubby. And I'm like, oh, who cares? Like I don't care. It's like it doesn't phase me. Like I mean, girls still find me interesting. So I guess I'm doing okay. The personality thing is we're still doing good in that realm. But I'll never forget that like one day after I graduated college, I went into the and this is where it gets kind of deep, is because I had a family member who was my uncle. I didn't get to know him that well, but he loved me so much that he gave me a truck post his death, and he died young, like in his 50s.
Wow.
He died from a heart attack. And what scared the crap out of me, Bobby, is that he died from a heart attack, and the guy was skinny. Yeah. He was not a chubby guy. And I was so damn confused by it. I was like, I didn't understand. I was like, I thought this only happened to people who were like, really big people. And when I saw him actually pass away, and reality hits when you see him in the casket and he's gone, and when you lower him in, I'm just like, how did this happen? I not only was I sad about the whole thing, but I was really scared as to like this whole new question mark about, I thought that this only happened to certain types of people. Not only did it happen to somebody who I knew, but this was somebody I was related to. Yeah. And this is something that I need to be mindful of. And so I went to the doctor's normal physical. I weighed 214 pounds, and I was like, what's up, man? Like, I haven't been over here in a while, like, how are things going? And he's like, okay, let's run some blood work on you and everything like that. So he came back into the room, and I'm just sitting there. Like, I was like, okay, I'm trying to go somewhere to eat afterwards after this. And then he's like, let's go over your results. He didn't sound like he was in an enthusiastic mood either. And I was like, this guy's kind of rude, Yeah. So he turns over the monitor to me, and he's like, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like these numbers. And he looked at me in the eyes, and I looked at him in my eyes, and I was like, he's like, you see that one? I'm like, yeah, the one that's big, bolded in red, and the other one is like black text around it, He's like, yeah, that's your blood pressure. And he's like, you see what it is? And I was like, yeah, it's high. I've always had high blood pressure. And he's like, well, that's not a good thing, guy. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm young, so doesn't that discount me at all? He's like, yeah, you're young, but you're not on the good side of your 20s anymore. I'm like, my gosh, like, he just gave me a whole bunch of reality checks.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm 20, 25. And he's like, yeah, but you're not just, you didn't just turn 20 yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You're not 21 years old. You're starting to mature into your young adult self. I'm like, okay, well, um, what do you think I should do? I mean, he's like, well, you got to change your eating habits.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'll try to do that the best I can. And he's like, okay, well, try. If not, we're gonna need to put you on some medication. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do the whole medication thing. I'll
Yeah.
I'll try to eat better. And so he's like, okay, we're gonna make an appointment from now, 3 months. I'll see you then. So 3 months go by, and in the meantime, I only did very small things. I cut out fast food. I cut
Mm-hmm.
out soda. That was it. And actually, saying cut out is way too much of an extreme. I think I limited it, if I'm being honest.
I get it.
I just limited it. I did it only maybe like once a week.
Yeah.
And I went back, and I had to go to this nurse this time to take my blood pressure. And so she has like
Mm-hmm.
this thing on my arm. And I'll never forget this. Like, she puts it on my arm, and the whole time I'm in there, I'm just like, damn, I know my blood pressure has to be lower. It has to be lower, because I worked hard to say no to all those meals,
Yeah.
like it's got to be. And so before, let's say it was like 143 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is like in the, there's like different tiers to it, which it's already in the high range, but
Sure.
143, I think normally is like 120.
Mm-hmm.
And below is like what your blood pressure is supposed to be. But mine was just like 143. And so that was from the first doctor visit. But then when I just knew I had to do better than 143. And so the nurse puts it on my arm, and she's like, okay, how are you doing today? Did everything go good? And I was like, yeah, I'm just trying to get this out of the way, trying to make sure it's a good number. And then she's like, are you anxious? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, I could tell because your blood pressure is up. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I got pissed. I was pissed, dude.
Yeah.
And so, but I didn't want to show it to her. I was just like, well, can you try it again? Because it doesn't sound right. Like,
yeah.
And she's like, no, I'll try it again, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be high again. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, so we'll try it on the other arm, do whatever you got to do, make me stand up. Yeah. I don't care. I need to see that number lower.
Yeah.
So we tried a whole bunch of things, and it peaked at like 153. And she's like, oh my God. And so she got on the phone and she called using the dial pad, this doctor that was like the department chair. And I was like, is all this really necessary? I was like, this is really, like, I was like, really, the department chair needs to hear this right now? So she put him on speaker, and she's like, you're going to want to come in and hear this. He's like, well, I can't because I'm busy right now. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, well, you need to learn about this young man's like medical record number and his history. Look him up. And so he looked it up, and he's like, okay, well, what did his blood pressure say? She's like, it was this. And he's like, all right, well, let me, is he there right now? I was like, she's like, yeah. And he was like, okay, well, turn the thing to him so I can speak to him. He's like, completely changed his tone. He's like, hello, how's it going? He's like, I'm doctor, whatever his name was. And then I was like, hey, I'm doing good. Actually, I'm not doing good. I'm kind of upset right now because I thought this number would be lower. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised too. I mean, are you nervous? Are you anxious? And I was like, stressed. Yeah. Like, he's like, well, this number is definitely not where we want it to be at. And he's like, you got to be mindful of this, because if you let this number keep on being high, it could cause a lot of problems with, things around your body, like your kidneys. You might have trouble going to the bathroom. You might have trouble with your heart later on in life. You're really working your heart. And, it's just not a good thing. So at this time, we're going to be putting you on medication to try to resolve this issue. And I was just so pissed, Bobby.
Yeah.
I was beyond pissed, because I was like, damn, not only did I mess up, somehow I messed up even worse, which is like, how? And then now I got this punishment of being put on medication. So when I went home that day, I thought the absolute worst, which the last thing that I had really kept on coming to my head was just like my uncle passed away from a heart attack, you know?
Mhm.
And I'm here in my 20s, like, dude, I feel like I was just gonna, everything that I worked so hard for, I was like, this, it could literally just be all on the line just because of me being stupid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went home and I talked about it with my mom, and I cried to her, and I was just like, how did I mess up so freaking bad, dude? Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. And she was just like, well, you know, like what did the doctor say? And I was like, well, they told me to eat healthy and, you know, stick to this type of Mediterranean diet. She's like, well, then do that.
Mhm.
All you can do is what the doctor said.
Yeah.
And then I just kept on replaying that in my head. Like, all you can do is what the doctor said. All you can do is what the doctor said. And so I kept on doing more research into it, looking on WebMD. And the more I looked into it, the more scared I got.
Yeah.
And I was just like, fuck, like I really got to like forget about like what it is that I did before, you
Yeah.
know, in my past life. And I had to start over brand new again somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I had to listen to some Eric Thomas at that time, but I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is that I need to do from here, but I know whatever it is, it's brand new and I've never done it before my whole life. So I have to try out this thing called the Mediterranean diet. And so I remember like, I think when people can make a change in their life, they had to be really motivated to do it. And in my case, I was extremely motivated because I was scared.
Yeah.
I wasn't motivated because I wanted to get a six pack, because I wanted to go to this next level. I was motivated because I was scared. I believed in my head that I was running from death.
Yeah.
And every single time I looked at food differently. I looked at potato chips as like that could cause my blood pressure to spike up and I could probably end up in a coffin, you
Yeah.
know? And I was scaring myself like that. But I was at the same time conditioning my brain to not look at certain foods the way I normally did. And I
Mhm.
looked at things like red bell peppers, onions, spinach, like oranges, bananas. I looked at all of that as like my safe haven of like what
Yeah.
would rescue me from all this. And then I realized that I need to go out and start exercising more. Like I need to go on hikes. I need to um, go on walks with my dog.
Mhm.
I need to start exercising my body because I'm an engineer. At the end of the day, we just sit on our butts all day.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just started doing this literally since COVID started, and I just kept on doing it every single day.
Yes.
And I realized that I was starting to see a little bit of progress, kind of like the intro of The Incredibles. You know, when Mr. Incredible needs to like lose
Yes.
weight, he's like,
Yeah.
dun, 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 and he's like, da, da, dun, dun, and he pulls out like the little thing, the measuring tape. He went from like a 46, 42, 40, and I
Mhm.
just saw my weight keep on dropping and dropping and
Yeah.
dropping. And it was so hard because I remember seeing my sisters bring home like McDonald's and like, hey,
Mhm.
we brought you some. Come over here and eat it. I'm like, well, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And they're like, because we were out, we figured you want some food. And I was
Of
just like,
course.
no, I can't eat that.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we already bought it for you. And I was like, well, throw it away. I'll Venmo you or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but I can't eat that. Like, I'm not even trying to be disrespectful or anything like that, but I cannot eat that.
Yeah.
And I remember them just being like, so like, come on, dude, really? Like, you're
Mhm.
a few fries is really gonna kill you? And it would kill me to see that food was in the trash can by like 2 hours later. And I'm just like, dang, like that was perfectly good food. And I just saw it go to waste.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at it 2 hours later in the trash can, like, oh, you did it, you know? You
Yeah.
did it. You said
Absolutely.
no to it. You
Yes.
said no to it as hard as it was. And you got, your dinner was replaced by like apples or salmon or chicken or something a little bit healthier. And so I just kept on doing this over and over and over. The whole time I was just being motivated by being scared. And I look up one day and I'm not 214 pounds anymore, but I'm like 143.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I cannot believe that I transformed my body to look like this, like
Yeah.
I was just working and working and working, and I just kept on running and running and running and not thinking about going back to all those fast food, but I just kept on going
Yeah.
this direction that I knew I needed to go. I never looked back. I never looked back and saw like what what it was I was missing out on, like if I was missing out on like some sour gummy worms or anything like
Yeah.
that, or, things like that. I just kept on looking forward the whole time. And I realized that losing weight, it sounds cute to say out loud and it sounds cute but when you actually do it, it actually makes you so much more disciplined because you
Yes.
get so much more smarter every single time you say no to something. It's saying no to the extra slice of cake at a birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying no to, you're celebrating a work anniversary, like, hey, everybody come over here into this room. We just got El Pollo Loco. It's like, nope, can't have none of that.
Yeah.
You become so disciplined on yourself. And when you become disciplined in this one area of your life, there's no other limit to what you can extend it to, you know?
Exactly.
And so what I started to realize is that, dude, I'm so much more confident in this physique, not just because I got a few extra chubby rolls laid off of me, but because I convinced myself that I can do something fully.
Yes.
I had never in my life lost more than like 5 to 10 pounds by accident because I was sick,
Mm-hmm.
This was the first time in my life I had actually lost 70 pounds just by doing what I had thought I should be doing. I went down this path of and I had no guidance to go off of. That's the biggest thing, is like I had no guidance to go off of. I was just watching YouTube videos and I just kept on looking at Google images of like the Mediterranean diet. Like, what is it that's supposed to be in it?
Yeah.
And so like that for me, once I unlocked this figure about myself, gave me clarity of like, okay, Nick, this is who you are, you know? You are what makes you happy in this life, what makes you bring out your personality the most. This brought out a whole new clarity part of you that you needed,
Yeah.
You don't feel so clogged up anymore. Because if I'm going to be honest, like, dude, like when I was eating all that crap, it's not like I felt good at the end of the day. It's not like I was like the most energetic at the end of the day. No, like when I was like that, I was less confident. I was, more of a crybaby back then. Sure. But now I look at life and I'm just like, man, like I feel like I'm in a new position to take on new relationships. I feel like I could be a way better father than I was, if the time ever came to have a kid. Like, oh man, thank God I would be having a kid in this type of like physique and this type of mindset versus, I know that there's no disrespect to anybody who's a teen parent, but of course, sometimes when you're a teen parent, like it just comes too early for you. You don't have time to mature into something that you would want to pass on to your kids, So I'm just like, man, like God is so good for giving me this type of experience to be scared, to be humble myself, and just to run after what it is that I actually want to do in life. And I was like, what is it that you want to actually do in life, Nick? Well, I want to capitalize things that are certain traits and characteristics and personalities that I have. I just want to capitalize every single one of them. I want to maximize me being the goofball of the room. I didn't know my dad that well, but my dad was the class clown. He was always the funny guy in the room. And I was like, yo, Nick, believe it or not, you do carry 50% of your dad's traits, Your dad might not have been a good guy necessarily.
Sure.
But that 50% part of him, you being a goofball, you acting like a complete, weirdo, you get all that from him.
Yeah.
And then you get this firmness, this confidence-ness from your mom, So you are a hybrid. You might not be fuel efficient, Nick, but you are a hybrid of these two personality traits,
Yeah.
That all combined with Yu-Gi-Oh, Mario Kart, Pokemon, technology, being an engineer, troubleshooting, leading discussions, being this whole radiant energy, trying to bring out the best in other people. That's who you are right there.
Yes.
It is not all these other things about you want to be like this person, you want to be like that person. That person looks cool, so you are that. You are not them. You are you at the end of the day. And so, yeah, Bobby, like it all happened for me. I know that was a long way to circle back around, but
that's
it all
fine,
happened
man.
for
That's
me.
fine.
It all happened for me after I saw myself look different in the mirror. I saw myself with a whole new lens, and I was like, this is who you are. It is not anything else. It is with a whole new lens. You're looking at yourself from the angle. And also this, I'm going after right now what 8-year-old Nick had wanted me to do. I told myself when I was little, you better have a 6-pack by the time you're in your 20s. I told myself that, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't want to disappoint little kid Nick.
Yeah.
Because I still am little kid Nick. There's a little part inside of me that's little kid Nick, and I don't want to
Yes.
disappoint that
Yeah.
part of him. So I know they say that people who are in their 60s or their 70s or in their deathbeds and their 90s, they look back and don't think about the stuff that they look back at their lives and they think about the stuff that they should have done back when they were younger. And I'm just like, that better not be me. You know,
Yeah.
I better get taken out on this planet on pure empty. You know, this car better be going all the way until there is nothing left in this gas tank. I better die on E. Yes. I will not die because of high blood pressure. I proclaim it. I will not, because I will not die because of something that I chose to eat and put in my mouth continually.
Yes.
That I knew was bad for me. So
yeah.
Capitalizing on who you are, man. There's so many ways you could run with that, but man, Bobby, and I want to go circle back around to like what you were saying earlier, is that you see this. How do you think people are on social media now, like within like your circle of influence, like is taking it all in of like who they are? Like, talk to me about that, because I know that that's a whole conversation within itself.
I think that social media is a beautiful and destructive thing. Social media to me is a dumpster fire that looks great from 50 miles away. And then you get up close and you're like, oh, okay. Someone should really do something about this. And meanwhile, we're all like, no, it looks great from over here. And we're like, okay, I guess. But really, social media, I mean, it is an incredible thing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, look how easy it was for you and I to connect. We're easy. Talking in line. I'm like, hey, man, you got an Instagram? Boom, boom, connected.
Yeah.
Fernando, hey, man, hey, click, done.
Yeah.
Like, what an incredible world we live in where we can do that. On the other hand, I have a lot of students that I've worked with, and especially at schools that I've spoken at, where I'm like, hey, so let's just like, I'll have everyone close their eyes. I'm like, all right, we're going to do a little bit of vulnerability work here, and you're not going to like it, and I don't care because I already got paid. So no, but really, I'm like, we're all going to be a little bit vulnerable here, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's normal. Don't fight it. Just let that feeling of discomfort settle in and just wait in the stream. So I have everyone close their eyes, and I'm like, all right, who here has a TikTok or has posted Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts or what have you? Everyone's hand goes up. I said, all right, who here has posted a video that you're not really proud of? 2 hands go down in a room of 400 people. I said, all right, fair. Who here has posted a video where you had to think about it before you actually hit post for whatever reason? A couple more hands go down, and I was like, oh, that's a lot of people are being honest here. This is good. I said, who here has been really proud of a video that you took down because it didn't get enough engagement? Bunch more hands shoot up. I was like, all right. I said, let's really send it home here. How many people have taken one video that was however long it was, and it took you more than one take? Everyone's hand stays up. I said, 2 takes. No one moves. I said, 20 takes. A couple of hands go down. I said, 50 takes. Maybe a quarter of the hands that were up went down. I was like, all right, everyone, open your eyes right now. Look. Everyone starts looking around real quick, and everyone's kind of, going, oh, wow. And I said, all for a 15-second TikTok that's going to be seen by 300 people at most. Think about that. Think about how much time and stress and anxiety that you just experienced for a TikTok. Think about that. One of my favorite things that CJ told me during one of the coaching sessions. He's like, Bobby, you have one of the very rare gifts where you can plan everything out in your head or not plan it, however you look at it, and shoot it in one take and be good to go. He goes, that is a very, very rare gift. I was like, I don't think it's a gift. I think it's taken a lot of practice and a lot of hours to get to this point. There's a reason whenever I meet with a school, I have them go, hey, if you had to boil this down to 2 words, what do you want me to talk about? And it makes either the superintendent or the school principal really have to think and be like, man, I didn't think about it that hard. I wasn't really ready for this. I'm like, that's fine. Email me when you get a free moment or when you can figure your thoughts out. But I need this in 2 words. We'll be generous and we'll give you 5. And the fact that they can shorten everything makes them really have to consider what they're talking about or what they want me to talk about. And I don't do that to be a jerk or be a bully or be like, my time's so valuable, I need this in 5 words or less. That's how the ETA team trained me, is that we would do these rep calls where we would hop on a call and Coach Val would sit there and say, hey, here's your 1 word. It's cup. Go rep on that 1 word where you tell a story, it has impact, what lesson you learned about it, and conclusion in 60 seconds. You have 5 seconds of prep, go. And I'm not going to lie to you. First couple times were terrible, absolutely terrible. And I'm like, man, I'm talking to these people. Like, these people do this professionally, and I can't even get a 60-second talk out. Take it a couple months later. And Coach Val goes, all right, AirPods, go. Boom. Just off the cuff, just going. And that's something I worked really hard at. It's taken me thousands of hours to get to this point. But I look at a lot of these people, and they're a lot of students especially, and I'm not just talking middle and high school, I'm talking college kids too. And teachers, you're not excluded from this group. Everyone worries about this. Come on, focus. There we go. Everyone worries about that. Why? Because look, there's notifications galore going on right now. Oh no, but there's so many things. Who cares?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Oh, well, Tina didn't like my Instagram post. Great. Who cares? Who cares? Like, we put so much emphasis on. So Gary Vee has this wonderful talk that he gave where he's like, TikTok is the new Facebook back in 2012. And no one believed it. And all of a sudden, TikTok is exploding. So what is everyone doing now? Everyone is trying to become TikTok famous. Why? So you can get sponsors, so you can become an influencer, because being a YouTuber or an influencer is one of the top job prospects of the younger generation right now. And I can't blame them. That's awesome. To be able to sit around and make money with this is amazing. What a world we live in. But everyone's chasing this goal, and they're not planning on what's going to happen when they make it. Mm-hmm. They're not planning on what's going to happen as they get there. I personally hate social media. I hate it. I hate it. I love my Facebook and I love scrolling on it. I love looking through TikToks. I love looking at Instagram, just like everyone else. One of my biggest flaws is my consistency, because I don't like it. I don't like having to go, oh man, it's 3:00. I know I need to post something. I know my app that tells me when to post is like screaming with the 15 notifications that I needed to post 15 seconds ago, and I just don't care. I want to. But now I'm being controlled by this device that's like, you need to do this so you can get the most engagement, so that the most people see it, so it can get out more, so then the more schools can hear about you, so then you can get hired to come in to speak at more schools. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there at work going, oh, dude, I need to record a video, and I don't want to right now. I've had a really terrible day. All I want to do is go in my car, even though it's 95 degrees and the humidity is 105%. And I just want to sit there for 3 seconds and breathe this super humid air. I just want to sit there for a second and decompress. And I know I have something that needs to get done, and I don't care. And now we have this vicious cycle of, I don't want to, I need to, but my career is more important. And now we're just fighting myself over a TikTok video. How much sense does that make? Now, granted, there's a very, very easy solution to this. And Nikki, I owe you big time for this. Because I asked her about this on one of her Instagram lives. She's like, Bobby, like I said, Nikki, how do you plan, like as a single creator, how do you not get overwhelmed by having to post so much? She goes, don't. Just either don't post when you don't feel like it, or batch record, edit, and then have all this stuff in the chamber ready to go. So then you're not overwhelmed. She goes, the literal problem is you know you need to post and you don't want to because it's too much work and the work is overwhelming. So you're just either not going to post and stress yourself out, or you need to batch record stuff and have it ready to go because then the stress goes away because it's already there. I was like, yo, it's almost like this person that is Eric Thomas's personal video editor and video collaborator and all of that does this professionally for like Fortune 500 companies, knows what she's talking about. Who would have thought? Like,
yeah.
Right? But I think that so many people put so much emphasis on the getting famous part. Mm-hmm. And what they overlook is that's not the point. That's literally never been the point.
Mm-hmm. Stay on that. That's a good one.
Yeah, for me, the purpose of it is the growth. So I posted a video last Thursday, doesn't matter. It was last week. And I was having a talk with one of my buddies that I served with at Fort Benning. And he just came here and he's in the process of, transitioning out of the military, and he's new. And the second he got here, I was like, hey man, if you need any help, like how's Melissa doing? How are your kids doing? Do you need any help? What do you need? Do you need help moving? Here's the band hall. Here's everything. Here's the PT schedule. Here's what you need. Like if you need anything, here's my phone number. Let me know. I got you. Just something I do because I like helping people. And he and I are having a chat. And he goes, dude, I knew the second I got here and I knew that you were here, I knew everything was going to be all right. No matter how stressful things got, no matter how overwhelming our job can get, because it does. I knew I was going to be okay because I'm here and you were here with me and I knew we were going to make it work. And I was like, I need to share this with the world right now. Click. And posted the video. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever done. It has a whopping 350 views on TikTok. That's it. That's it. And a lot of people will look at that and go, oh, those numbers are terrible. The like to view ratio, blah. Slow down. It's not that deep. So I decided, because I was feeling, a little rowdy, I was like, let's post this on Instagram Reels. Why? Because it's the same thing. I just don't know how it works. Take 3 seconds and I'm like, oh, it's the same thing. Click. Just so I can give you the correct number, because, information. It's sitting, it just broke 3,000 views.
Wow.
That's kind of cool.
Video. Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, I was like, whatever. I'm just putting good vibes out there. Mm-hmm. I have had so many people that people that don't know I exist, like fitness influencers and a couple music producers and a couple other professional speakers that I've been watching for years, all reach out to me. They're like, dude, hey, thanks for killing it. I was like, oh, what? Okay, like, don't get too starstruck. Okay. Thank you. But like, how did you know I exist? And they're like, dude, your video's been going nuts. And I've never had a video do that well, ever. And I'm like, cool. So I brought it to, I was talking to one of my buddies who's a social media manager, and he hated it. He's like, I love the content, but he immediately starts going to the analytics. And I was like, Adam, watch it again. And you can see it on his face as he was just completely engrossed in the video. And I was like, that feeling you have right now, stop worrying about the analytics. Stop worrying about sharing it. Stop worrying about how many comments I'm getting. Stop. Turn your work brain off for me. What do you feel? He goes, honestly, really hopeful. I said, okay, that feeling right there, that's the only reason that video exists. That is it. I don't care about the views. I don't care about the analytics. I don't care about the like to view ratio. I don't care about the comments. I literally don't care. The only reason I care about the comments is so I can respond to them. That's the only reason. Because I've had so many students that watch my stuff and they're like, Bobby, hey dude, I know you're getting on yourself because you're it's a summer. So not a lot of people are listening to my podcast because it's summer. They're not out here going, oh, podcast went up. I need to. No, man, they're out living their life. And I want that. That's what I want. I want them to be experiencing their life. But I've had so many students be like, Bobby, I know you're getting on yourself about the podcast views, but just thank you for doing what you do. There's over 180 episodes of this podcast up right now. It is so much content that people can take in when they need it for whatever topic they need, because I've covered a lot in 180 episodes.
Yeah.
And I think that so many people wrap up their self-worth and their whole personality around getting TikTok famous or being the next giant influencer. And I'm like, dude, the coolest thing about posting these videos is watching myself grow as a speaker. It's my favorite thing. I don't delete any of my content on purpose. As everyone knows, there was a terabyte of footage that I had that may or may not have gotten deleted because I accidentally deleted the wrong folder and it was just gone.
Oh man.
And I cried for probably a good hour and a half because some of my favorite things that I've ever recorded was in that folder, and I was just rushing and not paying attention because I had to make it back to work. Like threw in the delete folder, hit delete, got to work, and I was like, there's a disturbance in the force. Something feels off.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah. I can like see Hayden Christensen going, check your folder when you get home, bud, because you're about to order 66. Everyone. So I get home and I check it and I'm like, oh, what have you done? Like some of my favorite things that I've ever said out loud was on that batch of recording, and it's gone.
Wow.
But if I've done it once, I can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it again. So I thought, hey, so what are my old habits on recording? I would set my stuff up, have my, recorder set up, and then I would record when I felt like it, which sometimes didn't happen for days. Sometimes I would just record when I'm like, all right, I know I don't want to. And you can tell. You can, and thank you for my subscribers and my viewers that call me out and you're like, hey man, you're not really in the mood to record. I'm like, you're right. You're right. I'm not. But I owe it to you guys. I'm getting my Monday video out, or my Monday podcast out. It's coming. It's going to be there. It might not be the best, but it's going to be there. Because again, motivation is the spark that gets you going to where you need to go. The discipline is what keeps you going.
100%.
And I'm like, even if I don't want to record, we're going to record, man. We're going to make this happen. And so now I keep my tripod and my mic in my car. Why? Because there have been plenty of times where I'm like, I got an idea in my head. So I will pull over, find the nearest park or the nearest open area that I can, set everything up, record the video. And I'm like, cool, got that out of the way. Awesome. Good to go. But I don't sit there and keep my whole life, my whole personality is not how successful these videos are. And a lot of kids do that nowadays because they're all trying to one up each other. And like one of my kids had a video go viral. You got 2.5 million views on it on TikTok, which is amazing.
Wow. For
the next 3 months, all he did was try and top that video, and they never came close because he was shilling. You could tell he was trying to make a viral video. And I was like, homie, I let him struggle for those 3 months. I did not give him advice. I was like, you got an idea? Roll with it. Do it. Go for it. Send it. Whatever you want to do. And it finally clicked where he's like, Bobby, I've noticed you haven't really given me any tips on how to make these videos better. I said, I know. Do you know why? He goes, why? I said, because you're not being genuine. You're not being you. You're trying to be the next XQC, and that's the furthest from your personality that it could be. So the second you start being a little bit more genuine, then we can talk. Do your thing. Because again, I'm sure you've experienced this where people try and give you lessons and give you advice and you go, yeah, and it goes in this ear and right out the other one. until like 3 years later where you're like, oh, you're right. And you got to make that phone call and be like, yeah, you were right. And they're like, I know. That's what I was doing with him. And I let him figure it out. And granted, he hasn't hit that level of success in any of his videos since, but they're so much more genuine. And he's happier because he's not trying to hit this goal that you have no control over. You are a slave to this algorithm, and that's fine. TikTok likes what it likes, and it changes its mind regularly. And what are you going to do about that? How are you going to control that? You can't. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why I love what you post so much, because it's just you. It's just you. You're like, yeah, and I'm going for a hike. And here's a meal that I'm making, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and here's some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, and here's some Pokemon stuff, and there's no like, oh, what if people don't like this? You are your complete authentic self, and I love everything about it.
Appreciate that, man.
Of course, man.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, because I like what you said is that like I mean, I've even noticed it too. Like, it seems like little kids, younger kids. I say little because I'm 27 now. I feel like
Same.
everybody is like a little kid. Yeah. It's like, man, like long are the days of wanting to be like an astronaut or the first person to, go on Mars. It's all about being like YouTube, like Mr. Beast, or, TikTok famous, like that girl, Madison Ray or something like that. So like, it's like, man, like if that's the whole goal and intention, I always kind of am fearful. And I can't even say it's just the younger youth. I think it's a lot more broader than that, because I see people on my people I went to high school with, dude, like people I went to college with. It's like I think we lost the way we were supposed to be using social media. I think when Tom invented MySpace, I think when Mark invented Facebook, I think when they designed it, it was really just meant, the inception part of it was just meant for people to just connect with each other, you know, give yourself live updates. Like, oh, this is what I'm doing right now. Yeah. This is what I was doing back then, or this recently happened. I went on this hike. I'm trying to assemble this event together. Does everybody want to come? Now it has come to the point where it's a competition where, if the video doesn't do that well, you want to take it down, Me, I'm just like, if it doesn't do that well, leave it up. Who cares? This is my archive, this is so you could get to know me, I don't expect everything to hit the algorithm. And even if it does, like, cool. That's just icing on the cake. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but I always do it so that, going back to that reason of like why they probably created this platform, I do it because I want to connect with other people. I want to see how other people are doing. There's always those few people who reply back that are just like, hey man, like, this was really cool, or this, can we do this sometimes? Like, you'd be surprised by how many people reach out to you. They're just like, wow, I really enjoy that you did this, or you did that, or I'm trying to lose weight too, or hey, you do Yu-Gi-Oh, like I did Yu-Gi-Oh over here, like you should come over here to this tournament sometime. It's just insane, like where the connections build up, all because you put it out there. And you put it out there just by being genuine with yourself. I think a lot of people are using social media incorrectly, because what I see now a lot is people that I went to, school with. A lot of times what I see, there's a lot of big social issues going on in the world. And it's like, man, like I see a lot more people posting about these social issues about, left, right, abortion, anti-abortion, Trump, Biden. I see a lot more of that. And some people's pages, I'm just going to be honest, I'm like, man, like, there is no you anymore. There's just your beliefs, And every time I see you reshare something on your Instagram story, it's just your belief, your political belief or your beliefs about this. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but when I chose to follow you, I chose to get life updates about you, not about your beliefs, So now I'm going to have to either mute you, unfollow you, or I'm not getting that same type of quality content anymore. As I thought I was going to get. And it's a shame that we've kind of resorted that a little bit to, just sharing your beliefs. I'm like, man, I'm so curious to see about what people are doing in their lives. Like, I want to see like how your grandparents are doing, I want to see, who did you end up getting married to? I'm curious
Yeah.
about that. Like,
Yeah.
who did you end up with? Where are you working at right now? Like, did you ever? Yeah, I saw you have a tree house in your video. Like, how the heck did you make that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, but I'm not curious about all these other things that you're sharing. So I'm just like, man, like, what happened to that part of social media where it's just connecting with people like this? And it's just like, now it's either competition or sharing beliefs. I wish we could go back to some sort of reason why this whole mess started in the first place, and we got to get better at looking at technology, not as a toxic tool, but as a, how can we best use this platform to come together? I was watching a TED Talk the other day, and it was called "This is Why You're Anxious or Depressed," and I was like, "Oh!" It was like one of the top 10 TED Talks of all time.
Wow.
And the guy towards the end of the video, I think it was about like 3 to 4 minutes left in it, he said, "It's incredible because we as a human civilization, when we were coming together, the reason why our species thrived and all those other species didn't survive was because we learned to band together and we were able to defeat lions. We were able to defeat these wild animals. We came together. We made technology with sticks and stuff like that. We made fire so that we could get properly cooked food. We learned stuff along the way, but we came together." He's like, how is it that in 2022, when we should be at our most peak of a civilization, our most technically advantaged than we've ever been before, how is it that now, based off of a survey that was done on a Gallup poll, how is it that most people say that now they feel more alone than ever before? How did we go from being together to try to band together? How did we get so dispersed? And so it just, the whole room went silent. It's like, dude, he's got so much of a point right now. Is that like, we have so much at our fingertips that we feel so alone right now. And he's like, we need to come back to that. We need to get better at that. And it's okay. It's so okay just to admit that you messed up. It's perfectly okay to say like, hey, I was wrong. I mean, I am getting too sucked into the algorithm. I am, it's okay to correct yourself, to just say, hey, I'm wrong. This one was on me, Yeah. And he's like, but you find more of that is becoming rare. Yeah. A lot less people are taking on accountability now. A lot more people are feeling alone. And we got to get better at that. Yeah. So he didn't have a solution at the end of his TikTok, but his goal was to raise at the end of his TED Talk. But
I knew what you meant.
It was to the goal was to raise awareness around it. And I was just like, man, I just want to be an example of that a little bit here. I don't want to post stuff I'm not going to get on Mr. Beast's level. I'm not trying to get on Mr. Beast's level, but I could get on a level where I'm just like comfortable with just displaying who Nicholas Garcia is, Yeah. Before I get taken out of this earth, I just want to leave the mark of who I was, what I liked. And I don't want anybody to get like confused. Like, don't get it twisted, This is not like, I don't ever want somebody to stare at my tombstone and be like, who the hell was this guy? Yeah. Go back to my page. Look at who I was. Ask the people who knew me best who I was, Look at everything I left behind. That's who I was. Yeah. I'm not going to be left or known as somebody who tried to copy this other person. I'm not trying to be like you. I'm trying to be like me. Every single chance I get, I just want to post stuff that's a reflection of your best personality or your best traits. Let's stop caring about what goes viral on the platform or not. There's at least a few people out there that are watching it that are like, man, this is freaking dope. I wish this person would do more of this stuff, Yeah. And there's people out there like, it's not really funny, but there's people out there, they're just like, man, like, I can't believe that you're so courageous, you're so like, why would you post something like this? Like the audacity you have, it's just like, have you always been like this? And I'm like, I don't think I've done a good job of displaying it always, but
sure.
Now I'm tapping into it a lot more. And they're just like, well, I like this about you, And I think going back to what you were saying earlier is that when you're your most genuine self, when you're honest, that's when the best perks of life start happening. They said that the best negotiators are the ones who are honest and transparent, not the Grant Cardones who try to make you feel guilty about yourself, dude, or make you feel like you're cornered into like making a decision. The best relationships happen when you're just being honest, genuine, and transparent. Like, yo, like this is, I like this. I don't like this. I've had success in this. I haven't had success in this. I'm kind of like this. I need help with this. The more transparent you are, the less people, you know, they get a more of an understanding of who you are. You know, that's all I think this is all about, is social media is just trying to get to know who you are as a genuine, authentic person. Now, there are people out there who will just post, I call them the scroll and judges, you know, they don't like to post. They got one post a year and then they just scroll and judge. And so my message to you scroll and judges are, how do you know that us people who are putting content out there, how do you not know that we don't want to see live updates about you? You know, I'm so interested in most of these scroll and judges. I'm just like, man, like, I wish that you would give us a little bit more about who you are, you know? Your originality that you could contribute to this society that we're living in, it would go volumes more than you could have ever appreciated, could have ever known. But you don't give us that luxury because you're just a scroll and judger right now. You don't always have to be a scroll and judger. You can help us get to know who you are, you know? Maybe your thing isn't social media, but maybe you want to arrange a local meetup. Maybe you want to have us connect with you better, like whatever it is. But I don't want to get too far off the tracks here, but man, I just want to drive home that social media is like one of the greatest platforms that I think we've ever come across. I don't think we've even fully tapped into its full potential of what it could be just yet. And I do think that we need to check ourselves a little bit better about what our expectations are with this, what it is that we can accomplish using this thing. So yeah, Bobby, I don't want to go too far with that one, but you know.
No, man, I could not agree with you more if I wanted to. Like, I think people need to stop trying to be what they think they need to be and just be you. That's all anybody's asking for. That's all anybody really wants.
I think that's the whole goal of this podcast episode, is like, just, you know, like the whole topic is just be you, man.
Just be you. Don't try and fight it. Don't try and create the perfect you. Like, look at your flaws, acknowledge them, look at your strengths, acknowledge them, and just figure it out as you go. Because at the end of the day, we're all hurtling around on the space rock, and none of this makes any sense, and nobody knows what we're doing. We're all just making this up as we go.
That's true, man.
It's okay.
That's 100% true.
But I want to thank you again, man, for being here. I truly appreciate your time so much. And if you would be so kind, go ahead and close this out for us.
Oh, man. So if you got into this far in this episode, just thank you so much. You know, it means a lot coming together, and just, you're here too with us. You know, don't think you're out of the loop. Wherever you're listening to this right now, you are here with us, man. So as much as we've been transparent with you, I want you to be that transparent with somebody else who needs it, somebody else. Maybe it's your sister, maybe it's your friend, maybe it's your coworker, maybe it's your neighbor, right? Somebody you always see on a day-to-day basis, but just be that transparent with somebody else. I promise you that the more people get to know the real you, the more happier you will genuinely be. So thank you so much for your time, Bobby. You've been amazing, man. That energy is going to be with me for a few more days, so I'm going to be good to go. You know, I got my daily Bobby dose. Here we go, man. Thank you so much.
Got you, man. And we'll catch, that's all we got.
Yep. Catch you later.
On the next one. Peace.